I'm Stephen Henry Madoff, the chair of the master's program in
Mhm.
curatorial practice at the School of Visual Arts. And each week we present the curatorial roundtable with a distinguished curator or museum director. And this week I'm delighted to have Yuko Hasegawa with us. I'm going to read a short bio for Yuko. And I'll just take care of some housekeeping now, which is to say that Yuko will speak for approximately 50 minutes, and at which point at the bottom of your screen, you can click on the Q&A and put in a comment or a question. We'll have about 10 minutes for Yuko to respond to your comments, and that's it. So briefly about Yuko, she is the director of the 21st Century Museum of Contemporary Art in Kanazawa and professor of curatorial and art theory at Tokyo University of the Arts. Her past positions include chief curator of the Museum of Contemporary Art Tokyo from 2006 to 2020, and chief curator and founding artistic director of the 21st Century Museum of Contemporary Art. She was a board member of Hong Kong's West Kowloon Cultural District Authority from 2009 to 2011 and has remained a member of the Asian Arts Council at the Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum in New York since 2008. She's also a member of the Istanbul Biennale Advisory Board and is known for her work in various biennials, including the 7th Moscow Biennale in 2017, 11th Sharjah Biennale 2013, 12th Venice Biennale of Architecture as an artistic advisor in 2010, the 29th Sao Paulo Biennale co-curator 2010, and the 4th Seoul International Media Art Biennale 2006. Recently curated exhibitions include Feminisms 2022, looking at pluralistic feminisms through the lens of contemporary art since the 1990s, at the 21st Century Museum of Contemporary Art, Kanazawa. Olafur Eliasson, Sometimes the River is the Bridge in 2020 at the same museum, and Fukami, A Plunge into Japanese Aesthetics at the Hotel Salmon de Rothschild in Paris, 2018, as well as Panorama, New Vision on Art since 1970 at the Centre Pompidou Metz. She's also the artistic director of the Inujima Art House Project and was a member of the juries that selected Dora Salcedo 2019 for the Nomura Art Award and Salcedo 2016, Isa Genskin 2019, Michael Rakowitz 2020, and Senga Ngundi 2023, as well as Arobang Nkanga 2024 for the Nasher Prize. So with that, welcome, Yuko, and I'm handing it over to you.
Hello, and good evening or good afternoon. This is Yuko Hasegawa. Thank you very much. Very precise, kind introduction, Stephen. I'm very honored to give a kind of little lecture today, and I hope I can get a very positive, also interesting feedback question from you at the end of my talk. I'm gonna start to talk about my 3 curatorial practice, and since the last kind of 10 years. So, I was basic, I'm based in Japan, and it's kind of Far East and like an Asian, but then also having been to serving in a public museum, kind of working in an institution, also as well as I made some commitment of the like an international biennial, also exhibition outside. So from my position always, I just also study art history, and my thesis and the theme was, kind of beginning the modernity and Edouard Manet, and that was very much kind of classical art historian kind of study I did. But afterwards, I just started working in contemporary museum curators. I always am very much concerned about what a curatorial practice could be a very important roles and kind of introducing contemporary art, also get feedback from people, also as well as waving a new art history, even in very personal point of view. But particularly after millennium, there are many kind of different type of the artworks and also global kind of position, in the ways it's not easy to create one context at the so-called art history, but a global art history. But in turn, how the curatorial practice and making kind of the new art history. This is also I'm very much concerned about that. I just showing three project we had done. One is the Japanorama, and this is one of the curatorial practice, how you just create a context and in terms of the contemporary art, your own country, because Japan is very much highly modernized, civilized countries and earlier than other Asian countries. But also Japan and development and their own kind of art history very unique way. So that is analysis of surveyed visual art in Japan and modern ones accept and West and undergoing its post-war modernization process. And this is not easy because but I just try to do it and creating and reviewing an art history and in Japan, through my curatorial practice. That is one. The second one, reorientation of the globalization. Because what means reorient? What means, overlaying the from globalization. Globalization is also, come from ideas and very Western capitalism. But again, we have to review what is kind of past and what the globalization happened. Because also the peak movement is in 16th century, 17th century, and Middle East. Also one before, also including China and all the entire Eurasian continent. So in that way, we have to review what is a globalization, past, and also what is a very dynamic change in a global culture, through the curatorial practice. That is a Shah Biennial. But thirdly, because nowadays, because the role of the art as a contemporary art practice has been developing many kind of various way, but we are not talking about only kind of art in the art form, because how you re-territorialize by definition of the art, and that means the formation of the new concept of capitalism and art. And this is ideas through the Thailand Biennale Korat, which I had done. Because I just talking about this kind of three through sequences, my curatorial practice, and in a chronological order. So what is just to kind of picking up the three exhibition, and what I say Japanorama is kind of the contemporary art and after 1970 to present. That was that was the invitation of Pompidou Metz and from the kind of annex and museum in the Pompidou that was located. Metz is an north and the north and east part of the France. It's also connected to several border. So what is Emma Rabin, the director? She was kindly invited me and asked me because it's not so easy to introduce and survey of the Japanese and contemporary art. And many exhibitions happen, taking and post-war, like in the 50s, 60s. Many Japanese in contemporary art exhibition outside the countries and focus on those kind of 50s, 60s. Or, very much kind of easy understanding exhibition, likely, and Muji, also Hello Kitty. And those kind of very much kind of subculture based exhibition was introduced at the Japanese and contemporary art exhibition. But then we have to, and Emma Rabin asked me to how you just deeply and present Japanese and contemporary art and post-war and particularly focused on after Osaka Expo. So, which is also how Japan developing their own cultural identity and last 50 years. That was the theme. But the second research biennial, because which is also I just talking about now is the Middle East is very strong last 20 years because and also they have to going back to reviews their own kind of the history also and culture. So in that way, how my point of view and I can contribute to recontextualize, but ideas reorientation to a global cultural scene to into the this geopolitical point. And Sharjah is one of the city UAE. So that is the thirdly curatorial practice about how you art can work with created the theory of the social common capital. Because also economist Uzawa just raised this question, how new capitalism should be, so that how art can work with this new theory. So that I just try to make some experimental project in Thailand. It's very local city. So that's the three exhibition I'm going to talk about that. But the time is very limited, and also I just prepared a lot of the slide to just give an idea to you what the exhibition looks like. But just forgive me to skip some of the slide. Because also Stephen just mentioned about my first international exhibition, Sharjah and Istanbul Biennial. That was 2001. It's when those the September 11th happened and 10 days and before the opening day. That was very dramatic timing. Also shift of the 20th century to 21st century. And because preparation and Istanbul Biennial, and I just thinking about this kind of three concept. Follow up this basic three concept and this concept and the vision. I've been working on my curatorial practice the last 20 years. So, 20th century is symbolized in three M's. Man means very individualism, also very Phalocentric ideas, not gonna ordinary man, also materialism, and so money is capitalism. That three M is really kind of, and domains in the 20th century. Also, and maybe bring a highly big development 20th century. This is also it's very much kind of strong kind of the impact on how 20th century civilization could be conducted by three M's. But those also a lot of the problem happen. But we have to think about soft landing and 21st century. This is three C's because I can put any C like a CO collective and instead of this kind of three ideas coexistence, also consciousness, collective intelligence. So that now it's collective intelligence and it's very much kind of talking about and commons and also AI. Many people talking about collective intelligence and very oftenly now. But consciousness is a term, is an opposite side of the materialism. But the consciousness also, connected to our kind of sensoring and our environment means, we are very much concerned about how our ecology is going to be. And ecology is not only kind of physical, and also more kind of theoretical, also scientific observation, how you feel and how you just sensing and your environment. This is also very also empathy and it's very important and topic today. But the consciousness always connected about this. Also coexistence, how we can co-beings. All these and three C's and very much coming to very contemporary topic nowadays. It's very a bit surprising about that. But 20 years ago, so which but I've been working with all my curatorial practice and production of the museum project is also based on this kind of three M's to three C's. This is just a short introduction what the museum I've been working for. I just worked on funding artistic directors and 20 years ago create this museum. Kanazawa is an north west part of Japan. It's a Japan seaside, very small city, and 500,000 people lives. But this museum, the ideas and how we can create and democratize art to the ordinary people. Also, polyphonic ideas. Each one has a different, but how you can make an harmony to singing about one song. Also, diversity. Also, development. We have very conscious about learning and sensory learning, or more kind of practical learning to think about how we can develop and in ways and mentally, also physically, also technically. So and also interaction, also interdependence, because this four key and word is kind of very important keywords and driving this museum. So this is ideas because the center of the gallery spaces, but there's 4 entrances, and ideas and the city is a part of the museum, and the museum part of the city, designed by Sana and Pritzker Winners architect. We are talking about and how we can, open the museum, what means openness is. But then also it's very important, and not only transparencies, mutual understanding. Center is in the gallery, and around the peripheral areas, a lot of art communication facility. It's like a citizens galleries, also library, nursery rooms, and also theater. So that it's open to public. The gallery space is rather very small, only 2,000 square meters. That we just making lot of very cross-disciplinary project. Also introduce contemporary artist. Also sometimes make a dialogue and historical artist. That is. So that is I just back to Istanbul Biennial because the title is because I'm very concerned about what my position is and a curator from Japan, also the other side. So people say Istanbul just west and east. So this is a very clear political position. So when I was in my 7th biennial, and what I just get the invitation, I was told you are one and the first one from the other side. What mean the other side? So that I just thinking about what is ideas, what I can contribute my own kind of philosophical, also cultural background to just give some new idea to the people living here. So this is ideas. Ego fugal is something kind of created word, means everybody has own egos and very much important you establish your identity and thinking about yourself. But always your ego is going to be maybe centrifugal ideas about flying from leaving from center to contact with others. So this is a new formula of the egos by yourself. This is a kind of question about this exhibition because one of the what I say is an exhibition open and 10 days after the September 11th incident. Because one of the project Alberto Garutti, Italian artist, everybody knows that this is Bosphorus Bridge. Alberto Garutti put the big beautiful light at the center, of the bridge. And when one hospital with Alberto sitting on one system, the couple has a new baby and a new baby born, and a couple just give a certification, get a certification proposal from the artist, and that the hospital people just give it them. If you just agree this and part of the project, you just put a certain number of the dial, this phone. And they did it, and immediately, and this is a sign, signature. The light comes up the center of the bridge, and people knows, oh, new baby is born now. So this is something. This is very kind of beautiful, very moving and project. because at the same time in Afghanistan, all the night is a bombing. So that those kind of strong light and fires, the people die. But in Istanbul, on this writing, and this is a signal of a new life. So I just thinking about what curatorial kind of practice, what our role is, because this is my first global and international exhibition as a Japanese curator. So this is I just started thinking about what kind of function and role of the contemporary art, also my curatorial practice. So that just model of the which I based, because recent the last 10 years I've been working on those kind of research of the new ecology, because this is a very typical way to present, because you must some argument about this kind of model, but an idea of very much a question to human-centric ideas, because this Anthropocene times how people suffer about what the human being has been done with the development 3Ms. So that what is a realization 3Cs, we have to shift some basic ideas about but those kind of the way of the thinking from Asia, a little bit more kind of the could be discussed and could be intermingled about this existing format of the human-centric ideas. This is ideas because many people talking about about new ecology, and also how art and culture can contribute about that. So today's I'm not talking about those kind of ecological exhibition things, because I'm preparing now, and this autumn in my museum I just launching this exhibition, art and new ecology. So I just talking about Japan drama. You might know about, some of the people knows about the Sensor Pompidou Metz, designed by Shigeru Ban, Japanese architect. Because I'm very much concerned about the history very quickly, and for your information, because Japan is bombed by first countries and was bombed in the city, and atomic bomb. We are kind of the victim, also very strong trauma. We have to start from zero as the ruined. So this is Arata Isozaki, very symbolical images. So after 1970s, and next years, and again Osaka exports happen, but this 1970s expo is very interesting, very challenging expo, because also we just also declares post-war time is finished. Now Japan starting our own original development, economy, and also our own culture. So it's very much an interesting timing. So afterwards, 80s, and it's very much kind of strong kind of economy, bubble economy. Also, Tokyo is the center of the culture, also international art, and in the world. So that of the many kind of artists come. Also, lots of kind of horizontal interaction between subculture and art, and also very academic and philosophical thinking. Japan is very kind of interesting, kind of in the center of the festivity on art and culture, and also including subculture. So after the 1990s, and Hanshin Awaji earthquake, and after 2012 is Tofu great earthquake happened. So this people just talking about serious kind of natural disaster. Also how we can think about new humanity interrelated to natural disaster. Also, these are highly developed and global gentrification, also global economics. So Tohoku earthquake happened 2011. So because afterwards many kind of artists in Japan starting about social engaged art, also new role of the function of the art and also themselves. Also our curator is the same. So this is something, but those kind of natural disaster, also war and situations continuously and happen these days. And now it's this is very kind of, important and kind of topic we have to consider these days. So this is the Tokyo Olympic afterwards, yeah. But also under the COVID, Tokyo Olympic happened, yeah. But I just this is my curatorial style because when we just thinking about what the history of the Japanese contemporary art and through the 1970s and to present, because present is right now everything constantly changing. Also, it's not so easy to overview, also contextualize contemporary art history. So history is today is happened, but that happened yesterday to become a history, something like that. So we cannot do an instant reaction to talking about history. But history is always eastward. And who's talking about this story? So this is I just talking about this is my stories when I looked at Japanese art history, because also this history not telling to Japanese audience. This history telling to European audiences. So French people is very much kind of the strong kind of concern about and interest to Japanese culture and more than other European audiences. But then even if French audience is very much kind of strong kind of stereotype ideas what Japan is, because I just pick up this six keyword to showing about and introducing the Japanese art. So because this is one is strange object, post-humans ideas, because in Japan is I just showing all the details, but the body and also physical performativity is very important and key essence in Japanese contemporary art and culture. Also, connecting and human and non-human, like a robot android, it's a non-humans and status is very much highly developed in Japan. This is one ideas. And the B and Japan is a highly developed culture, and people knows about neo-pop and from Japan and from 80s to 90s. But what the pop cultures is in Japan, this is something. But and C is kind of collaboration, because everybody knows about and a very big movement is 60s, likely and Fluxus. And Fluxus and first and very important movement, and also many Japanese artists participate Fluxus. But then also, this is something very much kind of participation, also collaboration, because what I say is after Tofu Great earthquake and many collaborative works take and happen and produced by young artists. This is a collaboration. Also coexistence ideas, what Asian, also Japanese people normally has. But the D is, and this is quite tricky ideas. You might know about the terms kawaii. Kawaii means something cute, something very innocent. What means kawaii? And people talking about the kawaii is very much kind of cute and very much kind of and innocent and fragile things and kawaii. But it's not that, because the kawaii is it's quite important aesthetic, also philosophical keyword in Japan. So that I just say is kawaii is something contains some politics and also poetics of resistance. That's I just put in one chapter to introduce those kind of ideas. But the E is subjectivism, because Japan is a very strong kind of subjectivity, and when you look at lot of the personal documentary and photographs like Araki. So that when you just look at what is the subject, not talking about so much kind of public ideas, but what means this subjectivity is. and this is something. But then also last one's minimalism. But then also people just talking about the Zen, also Muji, and those ideas and based on those kind of basic kind of aesthetic, also ideas and minimalism, simplicity. So that I just analyze and pick up this and 6 and keyword because and also I just get a lot of advice my foreign colleagues and curators, Europe and States, and what is kind of very much and characteristic ideas, when you're talking about introducing Japan. So this is my ideas. I just quickly, sorry, Stephen. I just try to be quick. I have kind of 15 minutes, Stephen. Yes?
You've got,
Yes.
yeah. But I think
I,
we can go a little longer,
yes.
certainly, if you
Yeah.
need to.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Because I'm talking about, and already talking about, what this means and strange object and body post-human. So this is I just showing a picture because also I just including some of the artworks in the 50s and 60s to just reinforce this concept to more clear because also strange object and ideas and come from this kind of Buto dancer and like a Hijikata. Also, and Gutai people. The Gutai group is just started in 1950s, but the Gutai people is very much body and oriented. Also, a lot of the performativities and become the art. So this is a kind of basic ideas about the strange object is connected to performativity. And that's starting from the real and post-war to connect it to, after 70s. Also, like a Rei Kawakubo designer, but this exhibition including not only kind of fine art, also, there's something performance videos, also, fashion and architecture, and also subculture. So this is also my curatorial language, because Japan is, not gonna, it's not going to, understandable just only showing an context of the contemporary art and like a territory of the fine arts, because also to just talking about the Japanese art and histories, and we have to include a lot of this and diversity of the subculture, also other, discipline, also other form of the, creation. And that's why this exhibition is just very popular because people very much interesting and, all the kind of background culture as well. This I just say it's a Yellow Magic Orchestra, YMO, strange object, and also Otomo Katsuhiro Akira, and also, this is also ideas and how humans are going to be monster, to be and finalists and could be big explosion. Also Yuko Mori, and she's presenting the Venice Biennial, and this year, and she's a non-human performance, autonomy of the object. So this is ideas. Also, this is an exhibition, view. And when looked at Atsuko Tanaka selected dress and also Rei Kawakubo's. So this and all the kind of mixture of, this and exhibition titles. You see, and this is Genpei Akasegawa, center is Rei Kawakubo, Shuzo Shimamoto is a, Gudai group member. Because, you say it's Rei Kawakubo is like, it's like a bigger dress because a lot of the holes and inside the dresses, but that's called a bigger dress. But this is something kind of very aesthetic kind of connection to Shodo Sugimoto. He make also hole. Well, next is Prepop, and I think people knows about this part quite well. And like Takashi Murakami, all the Kaigai Kiki people, Tadao Yokonori, because Japan is many kind of graphic designer also become also animators become painter. This is not kind of the strong division about the designer and also artist, because we are very much horizontal structure, also mutual relationships, and a lot of the subculture energies comes to fine art. these are, Kenji Yanobe. Also, I just want to focus on a graphic designer because they are super conceptual. It's 60s, 70s, particularly Tsunehita Kimura. He's a very much kind of, socio-political but strong message and graphic designer. So that not so many people knows about that. It's quite important, those kind of horizontal structure. Harie Yamaguchi is she's very strong and feminist and statement because now woman is very strong. So something like that. So all this kind of pop, Takashi Murakami, Unreal Age, also Yayoi Kusama. Sorry, I just do it very quickly. This is a way to make an installation. Yeah. The third yet collaboration, because I already talked about the Fluxus movement. Also, Fluxus movement was influenced by Zen philosophy and Suzuki, Daisetsu Suzuki, John Cage and the people of the Daisetsu Suzuki and Zen master. So that are also based on ideas and Fluxus, very much kind of relevant to the Japanese ideas. But I just say, this is a collaboration participant and Issei Miyake, Epoch, and also this on the left and right is a lot of the performances like from like a play and a collaboration and also Yoko Ono. Also collaboration and because this is a project is Home for All and architecture group after Tohoku earthquake, architects come together to creating home like a public space for the people. So this is Koki Tanaka. It's how we learn and others' experience. This is also Koki Tanaka is much strong and connection to to Fluxus. These are presentation. This is an installation. And poetics are resistance and resistance. I just already talked about what kawaii means. And those kind of legacies and also originated from the 1920s, like Harue Koga, Mabo. So that, under the, between two world war, and because those kind of Harue Koga is Mabo, those kind of surrealism, and also very much strong kind of the presence of showing this spirit and kawaii. These are, because I like this and Harue Koga, because this is very kind of easy and time to shift it and war, Second World War, because you can tell us and he is one from Okinawa and he just put together very beautiful kimono pattern together with an helicopter, also fighter jet from US and army based. But Yoshitomo Nara is she always, he's a child and the animals, and he just his subject is always these two, and those kind of innocent and the pure, figures, and just look at you with anger, because what this anger is. So these poetics and resistance ideas. This is Chimpon. Sorry, I have to very quickly do it from the subjectivity because I just thinking about why so many people focusing on those kind of strong photographs. It's mid of the 60s and also after 70. At the beginning, Daido Moriyama, those kind of people and make a very subjective photo. So this are pre 70s. So this is the beginning, and but everybody knows about this. And Nakahira Takuma, also the Daido Moriyama, very drawing, also out of focus, very subjective, and pictures very strong. But afterwards, turned to be a very personal documentary. But a personal story is, I put an onkawara on this section. But personal story could be depicted in different manners. Also, Takashi Honma is one of the interesting photographer, very conceptual. And also Reiko Shiga, and she's entering a part of the local community. She continue to taking a picture and a very strong and emotional picture. And after also Tohoku earthquake, she stayed there. So this is Takashi Honma talking about very kind of suburban, because how new mentality, also what the social problem happened in the suburb. So this is very much kind of, and I just thought it as a very personal documentary, also kind of connected to subjectivity, and particularly in Japanese people. So this is a minimalism. Also, then, but people quite know about, and 70s very strong movement is Monoha. Monoha is also much comparing Arte Povera, but Monoha is more kind of strong distance between material itself, because the Monoha people say we don't put any kind of our own kind of concept, also our subjectivity into the object, because the object start to talk itself. This is ideas very much kind of also based on the Zen philosophy. Also, all these kind of people. This is an installation view. So, and this is a little bit connected in the New York Times, but this is a quite Sarah Moritz, and very positive opinion, because the show is discovery what was overlooked. So this is something also out of typical stereotype Japanese understanding. This is kind of the front line of the New York Times. So, that, okay, I have 5 minutes. So, because you must understand what kind of my stories about, how we just put kind of the pivotal and several pivot and several center, and now it's those kind of globalization is art center is not only kind of New York, not only Paris and Berlin, because art center of art is also quite kind of and multiplies, and there are many everywhere that are kind of the can be in the center of the art. So this is one of the ideas, because and it's very important how the Islamic world function in historically also present, because I just make a proposal and ideas and how and metaphorical meanings and courtyard, because the courtyard, because in Islam countries there is strong restriction of the woman's presence, and the courtyard historically and it's very important kind of place, generosity. The courtyard is half public, half private, because when travelers come, the guests come from outside, people just receiving those kind of guests in the courtyard first. Also, sometimes women, sometimes they just stay in the second floor to look at the courtyard, but sometimes they just come down to join the conversation. So this is a quite important social and places and courtyard. I just focus on this courtyard was a new and public space in Islamic context. So, and just to put lot of kind of outside project, not only kind of museum, because there are ratio is very typical ratio, and those kind of developing country, because 90% is migrated people, and from different part of the Asian, also Africa, but they don't have any kind of public space. Also, they are not habit to go to the museum, because 10% is is the Emirati. So I really have to share this cultural experience, also art experience, to this kind of people and to those migrate people. So this is ideas, but the country is very hot. Not so many kind of square. Like a park. Properly, and I just started and created some kind of park, also gathering place for the people. So this is a lot of the working and a lot of the, an architect and a collaboration is in this biennial. This biggest piece and superplex, and this boulevard temporary closed because the excavation, because this land is available, and this is a scale of the space. I just talking and working with Superflex. They just get the ankle to the living people and many people. What is a very memorable public furniture and framework country. People just talking about what this. Oh, this is a kind of the fountain. This is a slider, and each kind of countries and people migrate people just given ideas. Also, this how the people and enjoy because so many people come here because they don't know whether this is part of the biennial. Because it's not important, but they just aware this is a part of the contemporary art. Because it's very important. People just proud talking about their own culture. Because I know about this fountain. Because this is my story. Because this participation is exchange could be very important role of the art. Sorry. Hi. Also, I made an oasis because it's very very hot, and people need some shadow. Very nice kind of place oasis. We just make 3 oasis working on office KGDBS. Also, this is a courtyard project. Courtyard. It's a very beautiful ottoman, very art piece. So this is a Sharjah. Because what I very proud of that, this bank and park project also they closed 1 year later, but then also again people lot of requests from the people and Sharjah and decided to create and rebuild and this park. That's going to open this year. I'm very glad to just kind of legacy. So that's an Thailand Biennales because this is a biennial and it's like a manifesto in Europe because every 2 years and the venue has been changing. So in this way, it's a Korat. No one knows about this place. Korat is in the northeast part of the Thailand. So that is not kind of touristic places, no kind of modern contemporary museum, but there are a lot of kind of the human and also environmental, also and kind of resources, natural resources. Also nice and infrastructure, university, also zoo and a historical museum. So that I just try to activate and this kind of resources. Also infrastructure as the original capital. I just quoted Uzawa is a very famous mathematical economist. He already died, but he said that social common capital. This is the social common capital could be, an expertise like us, also kind of scientists and scholars, and expertise of the certain kind of, discipline, and just get the trust with local people, and we are and collaboration with a very strong trust, and we have to create a new kind of capital. This is the things, and without any government intervention. So this is kind of the ideas, and about the capital. This and social common capital's ideas very much give encouragement. My role as a curators intervene this. What is the new capital? Sorry, and if you just somebody interested in, just look at the Uzawa and this term. It's very interesting. There are many English books. So, and I worked with, because there are no kind of museum, also no curators, and also no anyone had the experience to make an exhibition. I worked with, the university people. University people and become production team. So this is a one, and inside the university. So that is Peanut, and kind of brand scientist, and Stefano Mancuso. He made a research about how listen to the voice of the brand. This is connected to a big banyan trees, near the temple, and it's some censored and the trees, and that's reflected light reflection talking about looks like God as inside the trees and talking to the people. This is a kind of project in university. So this is before after, how you just create an abandoned space to make something very feasible places. This is also, and Sandra Chinto, and working with, 100 children make, this very beautiful tile print. Oh, now it's this the zoo is also abandoned place, and this are just working with Bianca Bondi and put on this kind of installation to talking about life and death. Also, this salt and going to be food of the animals. So this is a kind of rice towers and how human beings and meat and animals. This and also other kind of project is the one Italian artist and Giacomo, and so he just make and founded this abandoned place, make art center with the people. So this is also another and a very serious, important, and one of the artists, and she's and also worked with Joe Apichatpong Gwen before, and a woman. She just created those kind of new videos, and it's a big dam. It's destroyed, and this one village, but other village and get a new kind of the resource benefit. This is a kind of dark and bright and a part of the one industrial and intervention. She just make an very much an interesting kind of observation of the what the industrialization to what the ecological impact had happened to both villages. This is a very this two sides of the moon. This is very metaphorical title. So this is an exploration of the history. Also the local casting and Yang Fudun made that. Also this is the local researcher. This is very beautiful cave painting. No one knows in Korat, but I just started working with inviting Atacama and Desert Foundation people to creating a new kind of the visualization and design the information to just sharing this kind of and great resources, historical resources to people. But this kind of project cannot be realized because COVID. So that unfortunately, and I hope you can get some ideas on what is I have done. So that is I just closing my lecture. You might give some question also. And some feedback. And thank you very much. I just, very much pleased to give my experience, sharing my experience, my thought. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a lot of work, very quickly looked at. Beautiful installations. I'm wondering if there are any questions. I put a note that here's the time to put into the Q&A at the bottom of the screen, any comments or questions you have, or as Yuko has said, feedback as well. And we'll just wait a moment for that. We'll see if anybody does, but Yuko, I'll just ask if you might speak a little bit more, from your perspective as seen in these 3 exhibitions, and of course in others that you've done, if you can speak a little bit more about this idea of kinship and congruence from your perspective as opposed to perhaps a Western perspective.
Because I just booked what slide. I just because this is also related to my ecological research because how you just overcome this anthropocene time because I just talking about sorry, I just go back to I just talk several philosophers and several philosophers like Bruno Latour and also Timothy Morton, also Emmanuel Kutcher, and because they are and Bruno Latour is talking about world is an actor network because an actor network also and also ideas agent and also very much concerned about other the non-human agent. This is also beginning. Also, and Timothy Morton, he's talking about the ambient and also ideas and censoring ambient because listening to, and all the other kinds of sound, the voices also, and he's talking about empathy. So in that way, and but I think, like Timothy Morton, and he's talking about the new relation to human and also nature, because Western people is not so easy to overcome to this kind of division distinction between human and nature. So because all the human is kind of the center is of the nature, because Timothy Morton knows about that. It's not so easy to overcome this dichotomy and subject object, human and also nature. So that's why he just using terms ambient, something kind of in between areas. That means everything kind of come together. It's like make intermingle, intersection each other. So this is something how both could be approaches, because as a Timothy Morton model is something in between. So that means sometimes kinship is so because but we cannot talk to is non-human beings, and conversation is very almost impossible. Instead of those kind of conversation, we just knowing so what they are, what the relation to us, and also between animals, so between plants, because those kind of inter and that's why the term is Karen Barad says interaction, not interaction, is very important. We can be a real kind of try to be experience. If you being butterflies, if you be rabbit, if you be kind of part of the one of the small kind of socket in the garbage. So that's why this kind of imagination is very important, and we need two main approaches for that. This is very scientific knowledge and observation. The other one is how you just try to find a way to create an empathy. But the empathy has also divided into two. How we just developed an imagination to be others, and how we can co-being with others. So that all these things, and I cannot say I'm curious. I'm kind of the practitioner, but also I just using many kind of different type of theories and into my own kind of creative practice. Also with a conversation with an artist. I don't know. It's because we cannot talk to the animal, but we know and we try to understand animals in many ways. Also, we try to tracing what the relations, history of the human beings, animals. Also, how we can convince and how we can change our relation to the animals. These are all the kind of in the process, and this kinship could be, realized.
Well,
Sorry, this is
we can talk more about that with the students, because I think there are, these notions about when you bring up Timothy Morton's work, et cetera, that's object-oriented ontology, which is still a Western perspective, as opposed to what you spoke about in the readings that we've done about about space.
Yes, right.
And
Right.
continuum. There is one comment I see, or question. Pelin Kai is asking, what are the major jobs of being an art director? I presume Pelin, you mean a museum director. A totally different kind of question, a very practical one. Maybe you want to quickly answer that.
Sorry, what is the question is? Sorry, is there any...
What are the major
Yes.
functions of your role as a museum director?
That is very
Very
important.
practical.
Yes, practical. Because also museum director is I have the both role, because one is administration, the other one is artistic direction. Because sometimes I make an exhibition, but it's very important how you just reading the museum, because artistic direction is quite important, particularly kind of the scale of our museum and 2,000 square meters. It's quite small, but also city museum. Because when I just get the position, I just coined question how is the direction we have to prepare to be receiving and to being the future. So that means art have to contribute to prepare the future preparation. So that is for instance like I just set up 3 themes and each year so that any kind of curators make any interpretation about this topic, because the first one like dialogue of the kind of present and history, the first year, second years and how we know new technology, and the third years and ecology, new ecology. This is very kind of big topic I just put because to a preparation 20 and but the future. So something like that, because and also very important how we can co-being with new relationships and new audiences, because new audiences and there are different levels of audiences also peoples and outside, how we can make a new communication also, and how we can actual practical and methodology of the democratization art. So this is quite big things, and we are talking about administration people, also curatorial staff and education staff together. So this is just conducted a big direction because how the museum going to be. But my idea is, this gives the museum very idiosyncratic, kind of personality. So that it's not possible to like a metropolitan museum to like a MoMA, but with this skills and I can do it. So this is something. So we are kind of a very collective entity, all my staffs. That means we have to discuss about this 5 very important kind of mission and also concept which I just explained very beginning. That is that is my role.
Great. Great.
Also, I just thinking about the museum kind of new kind of items and the museum shop. I like merchandise very much. Also, and design and discussing about the new uniform. This is also part of the fun place. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much, Yuko, for this public presentation. I'm going to hang up now. We'll end this session, and Yuko, I'm going to send you again the other link
Okay.
for this session with the students.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Thank you
Yeah,
to
thank you for
everyone.
listening. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.